Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Nicholas Corcel, and you're watching The Literary Nomad. Today's video is long overdue. We're going to be talking about László Krasznahorkai's War and War. This book was one of the first, if not the first book that I picked up this year in 2026 to read, and I have been completely floored by how long it has taken me. I think at the time of recording this, it is July 8th, and I just finished it up last night. I've spent the day really collecting my thoughts on it, and still I find myself more confused as to what this book is about now than I did before I started it. I remember when I picked it up, I read the first, 50 or 60 pages in like a week or so. And I remember telling my wife, this is an example of why these prizes have some degree of value. I don't believe that the Nobel and many other literary prizes are merit-based really at all. I think that they are kind of a circular loop that really pushes very specific European and Scandinavian ideas, perspectives, and voices. I think tons of people who obviously deserve it have never won it and never will. And I think that there are countless examples of people who had no business winning it that did. For example, Bob Dylan. Even though I think he's a tremendous singer, you can't convince me that his contribution to literature is greater than, all the writers that haven't won it. But I digress. That's not really important. This book did, at least at first, give me confidence that looking at this prize, if you see somebody who won the Nobel who you've never heard of, it might be worthwhile just to check out a book that they read. Give them a try, because there are, on a technical, craft-based level, the skill that is demonstrated throughout this book is unbelievable. The way that it's structured, I think, is quite interesting. This, in and of itself, really is an example of maybe the difficulty and accessibility, but also of the craft-based brilliance of the novel. So I'll show you quickly. When you look here at any of these sections, and the book is made up of these little sections. This is a chapter or a subsection, but then each of these has it'll say 1, and then it'll have a paragraph, 2, paragraph. Each one of these is only 1 sentence long. And so when you flip anywhere in the book, you're going to be met with these little sections, and they're numbered like this. I think this one is 22, and then it'll go to 23, 24, etc., until it resets into the next chapter. But these subsections are interesting because some of them are quite long. Like, for example, let's go to page 86. This one right here, just a random one that I went to. It starts at page 84, right here, and it carries on for 1.5, 2.5, so about 3 pages. It carries on for 3 pages, and it is 1 sentence long. Each one of these sections is only 1 sentence. I can't remember a single exception to this from the whole book. So you have these sentences that span multiple pages. It reminded me a lot of Bolaño in a sense when I was reading 2666. Yet this book is much less accessible. So while the length and the work of the sentence on a sentence level is similar. Also similar to Bolaño's By Night in Chile, this is a lot less accessible, a lot more difficult to parse. And I think that that's the point, right? I was sitting here this morning, kind of going about my day, getting ready to head back to the States for the summer. I'm just trying to think, okay, what did I just read? What did I just spend 7 months working through? And it was really, really hard for me to make sense of it. So let's first start by just discussing very briefly what is the plot of the novel, right? And so we have this guy, this Hungarian guy. He's from a small town, and he works in the archive. His job is just digitizing and keeping archives keeping his archive in Hungary as it should be, right? Just a simple government employee. He's going through this day after day after day after day. One day he discovers this manuscript, and he believes this manuscript is essentially unequivocal proof that beauty and art and the core essence that makes us human, right? This idea or this thing that we all pursue when we create art, this preservation of humanity in the ultimate sense. He finds this manuscript and he says, this is that. This proves that this human experience is beautiful, and it proves that this is worth it. He finds the archive and he immediately says, or he finds the manuscript rather, and he immediately says, none of my work matters. Nothing matters except for this manuscript. I have to preserve this manuscript for the rest of humanity. And so to do this, he comes up with this idea that he has to he has to blow up his whole life. He has to move to New York City and then type up this manuscript and put it on the internet. Right? So we have this idea, number one, that art is supreme, that art is the ultimate form of human expression, of humanity, of all of these things, right? This idea that I think all of us on this channel, or all of us that would read these types of books or engage in this types of discussions would agree with, right? That art is the supreme expression of humanity. We have that piece, and then we have this idea of preservation, and this kind of forks two ways for me, because while it is important to note that this book was written, I believe, in the late 90s, either late 90s or early 2000s, so right around the time that I was born, you have to wonder, why is he going to New York to preserve it on the internet, right? And so this made me think, New York in the pre-internet era would probably be viewed as like the center of art, the center of the world, so to speak. Some would argue that it still is today. I would not. I disagree with that vehemently. I think that the center of the world is probably in a data center somewhere or in a big server room. I think that the center of the artistic world lies online. I think that those like open source libraries like Anna's Archive or LibGen or anything like that, I think that those are the greatest preservation tools that we currently have. I think that those are some of the greatest forms of like equitable preservation of art and humanity and beauty, I think, that humanity has ever seen. But in this book, we see the dichotomy, right? We see the separation and kind of the coming together of these two things. We see New York as this physical place of art, beauty, and preservation. But then we see the internet kind of emerging, and we see our main character. We see Korin. He's reaching out, so to speak. He's reaching out towards the internet. He's trying to grasp onto it. He's trying to hold this idea that the internet will become the perfect preservation tool, that it is impossible to corrupt, that it is impossible to erase. You know, when we think about maybe things like the Cultural Revolution, wars or fires or things like that, right? He thinks that the internet is the solution to all of those. And in many ways, I think the internet is the solution to many of those. But I think what this novel really grapples with a lot of the time is, yes, it solves some of those problems. It's harder to purge the internet in some ways, but it creates new problems as well, right? So as we solve for X, we create Y. That is constantly being grappled with throughout this. Then we have the through line kind of layered on top in these wide-spanning sentences. This through line of, is this guy going crazy? Is he fundamentally insane? Is Korin in full control of his facilities, right? Because as he is going to New York, as he is working to type this out, we get these scenes of, and it becomes almost hallucinogenic, where he's typing and then he's talking to this Puerto Rican woman that is in the apartment that he's renting. She's in an abusive relationship with an interpreter that gets increasingly violent until they're killed with machine guns at the end of the book. But he's talking to her, he's typing, he has these random encounters with violence. He gets completely just beat up by these guys back in Hungary. Somebody punches him, I think, at the airport in New York City. He sees the shootings, right? He has interactions with some drug people. And then we flip back and forth into little hints of the manuscript. And the manuscript itself is crazy. The manuscript is about these four travelers, and it kind of spans and breaks and melts time all at once, right? So we're seeing these four travelers bouncing around to different periods. I think we see them in Venice for a while. We see them in Cologne for a while. We see them all over the place, really. And we see them as grappling with these different moments of great beauty and war, and kind of the fusion of beauty and war together. This is something that I thought was very interesting, yes, but also very difficult to wrap my mind around, because the core idea, and I think that this is just remains true with Krasznahorkai as a whole, is his ideas are quite simple, right? This idea that war is repeating, that it's cyclical, that humans have this innate desire to destroy what is beautiful, that we create beautiful art, we destroy it. We create beautiful art, we destroy it. Beautiful art, destroy it. Beautiful art, destroy it, right? That we just keep churning over and over and over again through this. That is a pretty simple, easy to digest idea. The way, though, that he conveys it is we have this insane man hallucinating in this apartment, speaking broken English, slipping into some German, going into Latin at times, going into Italian at times. The woman gets beat up. There's people selling drugs out of the house. Somebody comes in with a machine gun and kills everybody. He gets attacked at the airport. He gets attacked in Hungary. Oh, we're in Venice. We're in Germany. We are going through a pulled wagon. We're going through a taxi. All of this is happening in like the span of 100 pages, right? Because when we look at this novel, like, this is not a incredibly thick text, right? This is not a book that, should take you as long as it took me to read. But it did, and I think that it will, if you were to read it yourself. Because I think really the best way and the only way that I can put this is one of those rare books that you read it, and the more you read, the dumber and less adequate you feel, right? It's one of those books where you read his sentence and you think, I can't put my finger on why this is transformative. I can't put my finger on why this is great. I can't put my finger on really any of like the material things that this is doing that is so good, yet I know that it is, and I know that I will never be able to reach this level, right? He is operating at a plane that the vast majority of humans will never see. It's similar to like when you watch basketball or something like that, and you see LeBron playing, or you watch the World Cup and you see Messi doing things, right? And when Messi takes the ball and drops his shoulder and he does something that makes other high-level professionals look like children, right? That's kind of what's on display here, where he is operating at such a level that I don't have the words to express it, right? I don't have the ability to even understand why it works so well. So this is something that, now I can just show you some of my annotations, right? This is a book where I'm writing all of this in there. I'm filling up the book with all these annotations. And I still am sitting here making this review wondering, did I get it? Right? Did I understand what is happening here? I got the simple ideas. I'm quite confident in that I'm able to understand some of like the bigger ideas on like a simple level. But it's also something where before making this video, I was going through YouTube trying to find little pieces of other people talking about the text, and then it really gripped me. I couldn't find anything in English of people talking about this book. Of course, I saw some interviews from the author himself, and I found one guy who had a really good interview in Spanish, but my Spanish is nowhere near good enough to fully understand. But from the pieces that I could parse from it, it was quite interesting, quite informative. So if you do speak Spanish, I would highly recommend you check that out. But yeah, this book it's a weird one. It's one of those that it's amazing, right? It's a very, very good novel. It's a well-written novel. I would say it's almost perfectly written, but it's very inaccessible. It's very hard to get a lot out of. And honestly, if I could go back to the beginning of the year, I don't know if I would have started reading it. I don't know if I'm maybe not there in my reading journey yet, or if I'm just a simpleton. I don't know. But be prepared for weeks, if not months, of pseudo-dedicated reading to get really anything out of this. And even still, you're going to walk away thinking, am I the dumbest boy in school? I think the answer to that is no. But let's just hope, I guess, that we don't end up in school with Krasznahorkai himself, because then I think it might be yes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a ton more to say about this. This book was something that was really, really difficult to get a grip on, right? The whole time. And I think this also might be the point, is the whole time I'm reading, I feel like I'm reaching out to the point and it's slipping between my fingers. I'm almost getting it. I'm almost understanding what to take from it, but it kept slipping away. And yeah, I think for that reason, does it solidify my belief that the Nobel Prize in Literature is like a big Scandinavian scam? I don't know. Not really. I think it questions, or I think that he is a good example of why the prize has value. I still think it's heavily shoddy how they give these awards out, or who they give them to, and more specifically who they don't give them to. But there is value, I think, to these types of books, to these books that reach beyond, what we typically think and expect literature to be. And so for that, I would say, if after hearing all of this, if you want a literary challenge, if you want something that you might not get anything out of, if you want a book that's going to make you stop and look things up and open up your translator apps and look for blog posts and all of that, this is for you. You'll have a great time. If you're looking for something that lets you meditate on ideas, almost in the sense of like how Dostoevsky does, this is not what you're getting here. This is way less accessible, in my opinion, than even Dostoevsky. I actually find Dostoevsky to be quite accessible, especially when you factor in like the time period that it was written and how old it is. But I digress. That's not really the point today. But what I recommend, War and War, yes, but with a major caveat. I think for 80 to 90% of viewers or readers, probably not a great read. Probably not the best pick or best fit for me. I'm really excited to kind of put this away, put it on my shelf, forget about it. Maybe I'll finish. I'm writing a longer form review. I think I'm about 2,500 words in that right now, but I think I'm going to take a break from that for a while, put that back out, pull it back out a little bit later, finish the review, and then never attempt to tackle this again, or at least not attempt it again until I find some more IQ points. But I'm not going to keep you here any longer. This video is dragging on a bit. My name is Nicholas Corsell. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. You can expect a little bit more videos, a little bit more frequent videos over the summer. I finally have a little bit of a break from a very, very hectic year of teaching, moving across the world. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the people that have stuck around, that have put up with my fairly lackluster uploading this year in 2026. I'm going to try as best I can to improve moving forward. Thanks again. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.